Beneath what we call love, there's an older game at play, a game you didn't design. It's not loyalty, sweet words, or good intentions that hold people together. It's power, leverage, and knowing who needs who more. A woman rarely loses herself over a man who only offers peace. Her mind and pulse are stirred by the man she can't fully read or own. That uncertainty isn't a trick, it's human nature. Long before psychology named it, Machiavelli wrote about it, not in love stories, but in lessons of rulers, fear, and control. He saw that love and politics follow the same rules. The heart is often moved less by comfort and more by tension. There are forces at work in every relationship that few speak about aloud. One of the deepest is the fear of being left outside the circle. It is a fear older than cities, older than civilization itself. In the world before walls and machines, rejection was not simply emotional, it was mortal. The tribe's acceptance meant food, warmth, survival. To be pushed out was to be handed to the night and its teeth. Though today we live under roofs and among millions, our bodies carry the memory of that danger. For women especially, whose survival for millennia relied not on brute strength, but on alliances, trust, and social position, the instinct to avoid exclusion runs deep. It still whispers in the way eyes flicker to a phone when no reply has come, in the uneasy feeling when someone grows distant, in the quiet panic of wondering what went wrong. When a man is always present, always instant in his replies, always waiting at the edge of her attention, he becomes a constant background hum, safe, predictable, and invisible. The mind stops looking for what it already owns. But when presence is tempered with absence, something changes. A small gap opens. In that gap grows curiosity, then tension. Questions arise. Where is he? Why hasn't he answered? Has his attention shifted? The mind begins to chase what it fears losing. This is not cruelty. It is the oldest dance of value and rarity. What is scarce is treasured. A gift ceases to be a gift when it is always there. It becomes air, unnoticed until gone. Men who understand this pull back at times, not in anger or coldness, but with intention. They let space do what words cannot. They let silence shape desire. Machiavelli might have said the absent are accused, but the unpredictable are remembered. When your time is earned, not given by default, the weight of your presence multiplies. She will lean in, not because you demanded it, but because her own instincts demand it of her. Most men, however, try to speak to the mind when they should be speaking to the heart. They list their accomplishments as if a resume could awaken longing. The truth is, facts pass through her like wind through an open door. It is not the data of your life that binds her thoughts. It is the emotional shape you cast in her world. You could say, "I'm in sales," and she will forget it by the next sip of her drink. But if you say, "I move people with ideas," you have not only told her your work, you have given her a question, a spark. The mind leans toward mystery, and the heart follows. This is why some men are remembered in moments, not in years. They speak in ways that let her imagine the rest. I create calm in chaos. I build things no one can see until they're perfect. I help people make decisions before it's too late. These words are not mere job descriptions. They are doorways, and she will wonder what it is like to walk through them. The male mind clings to logic, but the female spirit responds to story, to feeling, to suggestion. You are not there to be a ledger of your virtues. You are there to become an experience. In a world drowning in praise, validation has become the cheapest currency. A beautiful woman can summon it at will. One photograph, and her screen fills with hearts, flames, and promises from strangers. It feeds her self-image the way sugar feeds the body, sweet, fleeting, empty. Every man who offers it too quickly becomes part of the blur. When validation is free, it is forgotten. But when it is rare, it becomes gold. The man who holds it back until it is deserved, until there is something real to reward, shifts the balance. A single sincere compliment from him will echo longer than 1,000 empty ones from the crowd. She will remember not because of the words themselves, but because she had to reach for them. Earned praise has gravity. Unearned praise floats away. Safety is necessary, but safety without tension becomes a slow death for desire. A man who is reliable but predictable becomes a stable floor, and floors do not make the heart race. Desire needs contrast. Be the harbor, but also the storm that visits without warning. Surprise her without warning her. Offer both steadiness and the thrill of uncertainty. In that mixture lies the spark she will not forget. Even the social world carries its own subtle weapons. When she knows she is the only woman in your sphere, she knows she has already won and the game is over. But when she senses, without proof, that others could want you, a quiet heat begins to build. You do not need to boast or bait. You need only live in such a way that your life includes others, naturally, without apology. A passing mention of a female colleague's insight, a casual note about advice from a friend, small threads that weave an unspoken truth. You are valued elsewhere. And what is valued elsewhere becomes more valuable here. Mystery is the oldest intoxicant. Reveal yourself all at once, and you end her curiosity. Leave spaces in your story, and she will return again and again to fill them. Humans cannot leave unfinished puzzles alone. A man who offers every detail becomes a finished book placed back on the shelf. But a man who leaves chapters unread becomes a book she keeps by her bed, always meaning to return to it. It is not about deception. It is about letting her imagination become your co-author. What she creates in her mind will bind her more strongly than anything you could say outright. Leadership, too, plays its part. Not dominance, not control. True leadership is the quiet ability to steer without crushing the freedom of those beside you. Many women long, in places they do not speak of, for a man who can take the wheel when the road becomes unclear. Not because they are weak, but because strength they can lean into is rare. A man who decides, who directs without ego, who can make the world feel simpler in a moment of confusion, becomes a shelter she will return to willingly. And in the modern flood of endless digital attention, the man who offers his sparingly stands apart. His absence becomes a presence. His silence becomes a question. And when he does speak, it feels like an answer she has been waiting for. There is a strange irony in how abundance dulls the senses. In an age where a single post can summon hundreds of eyes, where likes and comments arrive in floods, attention has lost the sharpness it once had. It is a commodity now, produced cheaply, distributed endlessly, and forgotten as soon as the next image appears. Most men do not see this. They think that adding their voice to the chorus will somehow make it stand out, that another "you're beautiful" will have a different weight than the 100 before it. But her mind has built a filter for such things, the way the ear grows numb to a constant hum. What catches her attention now is not the volume of noise, but the absence of it. The man who does not rush, who does not throw his time at her without pause, becomes an anomaly in the swarm. His lack of urgency forces her to feel something she has not felt in a while: curiosity. She wonders if he sees her at all, if he notices what everyone else notices, if his silence is indifference or something more deliberate. And when his attention finally arrives, it is not a casual gesture, it is an event. That shift is not about playing games. It is about understanding that value is tied to scarcity, and that even in affection, timing is everything. The truth is, perfection is a poor seducer. Many men imagine they must be flawless to be chosen, that any crack in their armor will send her away. But women often attach more deeply to the man who is still becoming, who stands on the edge of what he could be. She invests herself in the shaping of his story. She believes in his potential, not because he is weak, but because he is alive in motion. It is not the finished sculpture that draws her. It is the sculptor's hands still at work, the promise of what is yet to come. When a man allows her to witness his growth, measured, honest, never desperate, he invites her into his becoming. He says without words, "Watch me rise." And in watching, she becomes part of the ascent. This is not surrendering your frame to her guidance. It is letting her share in the intimacy of your evolution. A small confession of a skill you are building, a quiet admission of a fear you are facing. These open a space where she can root herself. She becomes more than an observer. She becomes part of the soil from which you grow. And once she has planted herself there, she is slow to leave. Yet, none of this works without the discipline to be unpredictable. Predictability is the death of wonder. A man who answers the same way each time, who reacts as expected, who folds himself into a neat pattern, becomes a map she has memorized. And when a map is memorized, there is no reason to keep looking at it. But a man who occasionally shifts the terrain forces the traveler to keep walking. He remains a place she hasn't fully explored. Many men, fearing loss, hand over all their cards too soon. They think safety comes from full exposure, from laying every thought and intention bare. But safety and attraction is not built from transparency. It is built from presence, consistency, and selective revelation. This is not about hiding truths. It is about releasing them in moments when they can have the most weight. It is knowing that the mind hungers more for what is withheld than for what is given freely. And then there is the art of silent leadership. Leadership in love is not the declaration of command. It is the ease with which you remove burdens from her mind without her having to ask. It is saying, "Be ready at 7," instead of, "What do you want to do?" It is the calm certainty of a man who has thought ahead, who does not need to crowd the air with explanations or justifications. In those moments, she is not submitting to you. She is trusting you. And trust is the most seductive currency of all. These forces, scarcity of attention, the allure of growth, the fire of unpredictability, the quiet of leadership, do not operate in isolation. They weave together into something that feels less like a tactic and more like a gravity. People think they choose what they are drawn to, but the truth is, most are drawn without knowing why. She will tell herself stories to explain it, but the deeper reasons lie far beneath her words. They rest in instincts older than memory, in emotional patterns that have survived every change of era and culture. If you understand these currents, you stop swimming against them. You stop thinking in terms of chasing, convincing, or impressing. You begin to see that the game is not about making her love you. It is about becoming the kind of force she cannot easily walk away from, because to do so would feel like stepping out of warmth into cold air.